Hey friends, it's Deanna here today, and we are ready to make one of my very favorite patterns. It is the Duke jacket. I know we have been waiting for this jacket for a while, and I'm so excited about it. Ever since the Duchess jacket came out, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I was really excited to see one that didn't have the skirt option, so it was more of a straight jacket. Straight jacket, I know that sounds funny. Straight jacket, not like straight jacket. Anyway, so I was really excited when I saw this one testing and I saw Lindsay was working on it. I am in love with it. I'm making one for my son today, but I've already got thoughts of all the ones that I'm going to be making for my nieces and nephews. I am so excited. I love it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do, let me remind you about our Fun Fan giveaway of $50 Ellie and Mac gift certificate. And all you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to our channel and comment below one of our videos, participating videos, and you will be entered for our giveaway. So go ahead and do that if you haven't. And let's get started. I already cut out my pattern pieces. All my pattern pieces are cut out. I chose my buttons. I'm doing these like, they look like 5 cents or something like that. It looks like a nickel. Yeah, 5 cents. Cute, huh? And I've had those for a while, so I figured that would be cute. And then I am doing, it's kind of funky because I'm doing like a very kind of serious outer shell. I have to iron it, it's kind of wrinkly. But then I'm doing this fun inside shell is basketball. It's like a vintage basketball fabric because my son loves basketball. And so I thought that was really, really fun. It'll be like really serious on the outside and then boop, party on the inside. So I'm excited about it. It's kind of what my son is like. He's very serious, but then he's also very fun and outgoing and funny when he's letting it all loose. So we're going to get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to work on all those tabs. So we've got shoulder tabs, we got arm tabs, sleeve tabs, and we've got shoulder tab, sleeve tab, and we've got the neck tabs. So the shoulder tabs and the sleeve tab are going to be the same. And then the neck tab is going to be a little bit different. So we'll put the neck tab to the side. This is my shoulder tab, and my arm and my sleeve tabs are going to be the same. So I already did some. I'm going to show you how to do it on this one, but we're going to do it the same way on all of them. I'm going to grab my tabs. I'm going to put them right sides together. So they're facing right sides together on top of each other. And I'm going to go on my sewing machine. I'm going to sew up, over, and down. So I'm going to sew up, over, and down, and then I'm going to turn it. So let me go ahead and sew all around it, encasing it, and then we're going to go ahead and turn it around. Make sure you have the right stitching on your sewing machine right now. I'm going down, I'm stopping, turning, going down that side. All right, so once I've already sewn all the way around, I'm going to go in those corners and kind of trim those edges to give it a more even look. And you want to make sure that you don't cut the thread that you just made. Okay? And like I said, I'm doing this for my tabs, my shoulder and my neck tabs. So my shoulder tabs and my sleeve tabs. My neck tabs are going to be a little bit different. So I'm turning my tab around. Okay. Right side out. Sometimes I use, there's different tools that you can use, an orange stick and different things, but for most of the time I use a dull pencil. And make sure I poke out the sides, the corners nicely and evenly, and then I'm going to steam it. There went my pencil. Now I've got my tab. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch it all the way around. So I'm going back on my sewing machine and top stitching all the way around. if you wanted to have a darker top stitch line, mine is just, you can still see it, but if your fabric is really heavy and thick and you want to be able to see it, you could use, one of the tips that they give you on the pattern is you can use a heavier thread to make it more noticeable. But that might also mean that you need to use a heavier needle. So you can make up your mind about that. So now we're gonna go ahead, and I did, all of them are already top stitch, and the next step is to make those buttonholes. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our, I'm gonna grab my, my measuring tape, and I am going to measure, this is how I make my buttonholes, and if you make them differently, then you can make them however you make them, but I don't know where I put my pen. Where is, oh, here it is, right behind me. I'm gonna grab my measuring tape. My button is 3/4 inch button. I measured it, so I'm gonna make my buttonhole an inch wide. So I'm going to start at the top and just mark. I'm just using a pen, probably not the best thing. I try not to make it too big that you can't see it once it's sewn over, but you can use any kind of chalk, fabric chalk, or fabric marker, or something like that, and then mark at the middle. So I mark the middle and at the end, and then I'm marking my end of my inch. So I marked a whole inch from the top to the bottom. Then I'm gonna go on my sewing machine. Now my sewing machine has an option for a buttonhole, and what it does is it starts right here. I started at the bottom, and it zigzags. It goes zigzag, ziggy, zaggy, ziggy, zaggy, ziggy, zaggy, all the way up to this part right here. It's a really tight zigzag, and then it goes like back and forth right here, and then it's ziggy, zaggy, ziggy, zaggy, ziggy, zaggy right next to the other side coming back this way, and then I stop it, and it goes back and forth right here, and it makes the zigzag, it makes the buttonhole on there. So if you have a buttonhole machine, yeah, there are actually buttonhole machines that make it their own, but if you have a thing on your sewing machine that gives you how to do a buttonhole, you can go ahead and do that. I can bring you over and show you how mine does it, but your machine might be a little bit different. So we're gonna go ahead and work on that. So here we are close up on my machine, and like I said, my machine has a special section that it shows me how to do, it has an option to do buttonholes. So it really just, all it does is it goes up, it turns, it comes back and does the zigzag. So that's really all I'm doing. And I'm just placing my fabric right there on my buttonhole area, as you can see. And I'm placing it right there where that mark is. Now my buttonhole, what do you call it? Foot broke, but I'm still using it. I just have to make sure that I look and see where it's going. So I start right there, and it goes in a zigzag motion all the way back. And I'm just making sure that it stays straight. So there's, in my buttonhole, there is my button foot, there is like a little channel that lets me see that I'm going straight. I get to the part where I marked it, I do the turnaround button, and it goes over, and then it comes right back. And I just make sure that my zigzag that I already made, it stays over the same spot, because my needle went over to the side. Now, if you don't have this kind of system, and you're just doing the zigzag, and then turning around and coming back, you want to make sure that you keep it straight when it's going. And there is my buttonhole created. So then I'll go with my rotary cutter, and I'll just cut it right there to open it up and make it ready. All right, so we will do the same exact thing to both of the shoulder tabs and both of the armbands. Okay, so we're gonna set those aside now. Those are ready. And I opened one of them up. Here it is. I opened it up, and I made sure that my button's gonna fit right through there. There we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my neck tabs, put in, again, right sides together. Okay, and this time I'm going to start in the middle of one of the sides. And I'm gonna go, not in the middle, like on the side right here, and just go down, over, up, over, and down. And we're gonna leave a tiny little gap so we can, through that gap, turn it inside out. But we're gonna make sure that we go down so that we have those corners tacked in there. And then we're gonna turn it around and then we'll top stitch it. So let me go ahead and go around and sew that one and come back and top stitch. All right, I hope the area I left was big enough because it's very small. Might have to take a little bit off. So it's all done. I'm gonna go ahead and trim again those corners without cutting any of the thread that I cut. But we want to trim those corners, that way they're not super bulky for when I turn it, and then I can just use my pencil and poke it through there. So I'm just so now it's kind of rounded corners. And now I'm gonna go through that little hole that I left and I'm gonna turn it inside out, right side out. It's gonna be kind of hard, so I'm gonna use my tweezers to see if they can help. Usually they help. I'm gonna grab it and bring it out. These are my sewing machine tweezers, you know, the ones that you use for like threading your serger and stuff. They come in handy for a lot of other things. So we're gonna turn it. You know, I didn't make that hole very big. I made it very small. So you this is gonna be the toughest part. Just turning this thing around. Come on. Especially because I don't want to rip my fabric, and it's a woven, so I don't want to rip any of the material. Here it comes. It's turning, it's doing it slowly, but it's doing it. And I can use like something soft and help me push it through. Don't want to do anything sharp because again, it being woven, you don't want to rip a hole through it. So you just want to do it gently. Gently, but harshly. You know what I mean? Like, okay. And now we're turning all the way around. I'm closing my tweezers and kind of poking out the corners. There we go. So now all my corners are poked out. As you can see, I've got corners everywhere because I did it that way, and I have that little piece of the corner, the top that is hanging out, and I'm just kind of fit it all in there. So I don't need my tweezers for this step, but I just have them in my hand already, so I might as well, right? Just folding it in on itself to close that gap. And I'm going to steam it. Turn it in there and steam it. There we go. So that little piece, there was opening right there. I just tucked the ends in. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go all the way around and top stitch that whole thing. Top stitch it all the way around. All right, so now I finished top stitching it all around. And now I'm gonna go ahead and sew another buttonhole here. So again, I'm gonna measure my inch, and I'm going to make sure that's right in the middle. So it's like 1/2 inch from that side and 1/2 inch from this side. So now I've marked where my buttonhole is gonna go. Let me make sure that's, yeah. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sew that buttonhole there, and we'll continue on. All right, so now my tab has already made my buttonhole on it. So I'm gonna put all these tabs aside, and we're gonna move on to do our pocket. So we're gonna grab our front piece. We've got the front piece that's got the overlap piece and then the regular front bodice, the under. So we're gonna do this for both. So I'm just gonna show you on one of them, but we're doing it for both. So the first thing I wanna do is I wanna mark my pocket. This is my right side. So I'm marking my pocket up. And what I'm doing is I cut out that pocket piece from my jacket piece, pattern piece, and I'm putting it right on top. And you can use chalk or whatever you want to use. I am using chalk this time because this is my right side, and I want my I want to use something that I can take off. I don't want to use just the marker, and I don't really have a fabric marker. So I'm just using this chalk right here for the outer. So I'm doing it to the outside of my piece, my front piece. Let me go ahead and steam these pieces. They are so wrinkled. I cut them out and I didn't even steam them out. Probably not a good thing. I probably should have steamed them out before I cut them out. But put that pattern piece aside. I'm going to grab my pocket outer. This is my outer. It's going to go like so. I'm going to grab my outer and I'm going to put my pattern piece right on top of it. And I'm going to mark the pocket on this one. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to mark it on both sides because I'll show you why. Okay, so here's my outer piece. This is my outside of my outer, outside of my outer, what is it called? Under layer. Okay, and I'm going to place my pocket right, I'm going to meet that pocket opening hole right to each other. So what I'm doing is I'm placing it right on top of it, looking at it as I'm putting it on there to make sure it's even. Okay, so because I can see the marks, I can see it. So I'm just putting it right on top with those marks, matching those marks. So now I'm going to go ahead and pin it. And now what I'm actually going to do to make sure that it's, when I sew it on, I'm going to grab my pattern piece again and I'll put it right on top of it again. And now I'm going to trace it on this side. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go with my sewing machine and I'm going to sew around that mark. I'm going to sew around that mark right there, all the way around, top stitch all the way around. I'm just using a straight stitch on my sewing machine. All right, so now I've got it all sewn on to my pocket, right side of my pocket to the right side of my front piece. I'm gonna do the same steps to the other piece, the other piece, okay? So I just did it to this one for now, so I'm gonna show you how to do it all. I'm gonna grab my ruler and I'm gonna measure from the bottom of my rectangle. I'm gonna measure at the center, a 1/2 inch up, and make a little dot. Same from the bottom, a 1/2 inch up and make a little dot on those two ends. The two ends of the rectangle, there's a dot inside, 1/2 inch inside from the end. Then I'm gonna go from that dot, I'm gonna go out to each side of each corner of the rectangle. And I'm gonna come back and show you in a minute. I'm going all the way out from the dot that I made. Couldn't really see it. I'm gonna have to do it again. 1/2 inch, there it is. From the dot to that middle, to the two edges. Then I'm gonna connect those two dots down the middle, connect them together. So now you have a line down the middle. Okay, now what I did is now we're gonna cut that line open and go up and up and down and down. But what I did is I went to my rotary cutter and I actually cut the straight line first. Make sure you're not cutting anything else. You cut that straight line first. From dot to dot. Okay. Now I'm gonna go with my scissors really carefully and go from that dot to the corner edge, right to it, but don't cut the thread. Just cut right before the thread. So make sure you pay attention. We don't want to cut the thread. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side. Cut all the way to that corner without cutting the thread. All the way to the corner without cutting the thread. My scissors were stuck on my finger. See? Now I'm gonna go ahead and remove those pins. And I'm gonna turn it and fit it right through to the wrong side. All the way through. And then I'm gonna steam it down. Nice and flat. Bring it all the way through. Okay. Steam. Ow. Hot. When you do that, you will see that you will have your opening for your pocket. That's where your pocket's gonna go. All right, so now that my pocket is turned around, I'm going to go ahead and grab and pull my pocket right side over the wrong side of my bodice, and from the little line right there, I'm gonna measure 1 inch from that line up. And that, if you feel with your finger, you can feel that that's where your pocket ends. This is where your hole is right here, okay? So if you're measuring 1 inch from the outer, you can feel it. I mean, I can't show you, you can't feel mine right now. If you could feel mine, but you could feel it and you can see that that's where it ends. So I'm gonna fold it over 1 inch, which basically just is enough to match up the raw edges of your pocket. Don't overlap it, just match it to the raw edge. I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. You can see this is the top part of the pocket where it opens, and you're matching that raw edge right there. You're folding it that inch so that it matches. So that when I open it, see, the crease is right there, but when I put it right on top, it just matches it. It doesn't overlap it, it just goes right up to it, buds up to it. And that should be 1 inch, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and close it up and sew all the way around it. So if I turn it, I'm gonna pin it so I can show you where we're gonna sew. We're gonna sew all the way around it for that pocket. Now, I am kind of regretting not using a different color for that pocket so you could really see it, but look, that's my welt pocket right there. That's what's gonna be. Okay, so we're gonna sew all the way around the edge, all the way around. Don't catch that piece. If you overlap it, then you might be catching it when you're sewing. You're not supposed to catch it because that's your pocket. So we're sewing, top stitching all the way around, up and over. So let's top stitch that. Now we have top stitched and created our welt pocket. There it is. How cute. Now we're gonna grab our wrong side, turn it to the wrong side. We're gonna place our pocket liner right on top of our pocket. And we're gonna sew all the way around. Now, you have to be careful. You can use your sewing machine or your serger. I'm going to be using my serger to go all the way around. But if you're doing that, you gotta be careful that you're not catching anything else. So you're gonna lift it up as you go around your pocket. You're gonna lift it up, catch your pocket sides all the way around the front. You're going all the way around to catch that pocket liner and outer, but not catching any of your jacket. So I might do it face up, that way I can see what I'm catching. Pocket is sewn together and done. There's my pocket, my welt pocket. How cute is that gonna be? And you're gonna do exactly the same steps to your other pocket. Okay? And now we're gonna move on to sew our bodice, front and back together. All right, so now we're gonna put our front and back together. I've got my 2 fronts and my back. I'm gonna grab my front, my overlap front. I'm gonna open it up, wrong side up, and I'm gonna attach interfacing to the inside raw edge, to the outside raw edge, the raw edge that goes at the front, because that is where we're going to place our buttonholes. So it's 1 inch. My arm got caught. It's an inch interface, just to give it a little bit more reinforcement. And you're gonna attach it how you're per instruction manual. So it's attached. So it gives it a little bit more reinforcement when you make your buttonholes. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and grab our back and we put it right side up. Sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out which one's the right side on this fabric, but I'm doing right side up. The soft, I'm using the soft as the outer, which maybe I should do it the other way around. I guess it doesn't matter because it's lined, so it's not like he's gonna be feeling this. He'll feel the softness on the outside, so it'll be good. So I'm gonna put the right side up and I'm gonna grab my front, okay? So see where the armpit is? So you go ahead and you know that that goes on that side, okay? And then again, armpit. So we're putting it right sides together, the front and the back, and we're meeting it at the shoulder seams first, and then we're also going to meet it at the sides. We're gonna sew those sides together. Now, I am showing you how to do this on my outer, but we're going to be doing the same steps, this that I'm doing right now, to my liner. So you will be doing this to your liner as well. Now, when you're sewing this, make sure that your pockets are out of the way. You don't want to catch your pocket fold over and catch your pocket on the seam. So you just make sure that you have them out of the way. If you want to pin them out of the way, you can go ahead and pin them out of the way. That way they don't get in your way when you're sewing. Let's go ahead and sew those shoulder seams and side seams. All right, side seams and shoulder seams are done. So now we're gonna go ahead and grab our sleeve. If you're making sleeve tabs, you put in your sleeve right side up. Trying to feel my sleeve. This is my right side. And we're gonna grab our sleeve pattern. And there's a marking for tabs. We're gonna put it along that edge and see where the markings are. And that's where we're gonna put our tab. Okay. And now we're gonna go ahead and grab our, and pin it, here it is. And we're going to baste that tab on. So I'm gonna use a long basting stitch on my sewing machine and baste that tab on for my arm tab. Okay, so it's just a long straight stitch so that when I sew the sleeve together, my tab is still there, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my sleeve. And actually, let's do the tab for the other side. Okay, for the shoulders, I'm sorry. I want to make sure, and like I said, I'm doing it for my other sleeve as well. So I already did it for my one sleeve. Let me make sure. I feel like the reason why I'm looking at it is because I need to make sure when I put my tab on for my other sleeve, because I already did that part, I put my tab on. Let me see. I want to look and see where I put that marking. Okay, that marking was almost to the bottom. So I want to make sure that they're even. I don't want to make them uneven. So if you put that tab right at the middle of that line, then you need to put it again at the middle of that line. Or if you put it at the bottom of the line, then you need to put it at the bottom of the line. I put it kind of on top of the line. It was just kind of in the middle of the line. So I wanted to make sure that both of them were the same, in the same place. I don't want one to be, I don't want one to be like way up and one to be way down, and then when he puts them on, it looks kind of wonky. So that's why I wanted to make sure that they're both in the same area. Okay, now we're gonna do this. We're gonna put our shoulder tabs on if you're doing shoulder tabs. I don't know why I end up being like all over crowded over there. So I'm gonna grab a shoulder tab, and here where my shoulder seam is, find your shoulder seam. Here's my arm side. Here's my front, okay? I'm gonna place this tab right on top, flushed with see the seam up here, the shoulder seam, flushed with the shoulder seam, going towards the front, and here's my seam for where my sleeve's gonna go, and I'm gonna put it right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and baste it. So when I sew my sleeve on, I'm also sewing those tabs, that tab on for my shoulders. And I'm gonna pin it over here as well, just because I don't want it to lift up and come over. But I'm pinning both of them. See, I've got my other one, and I'm gonna sew it at the, baste it at the raw edge over here on this side, on the outer side. Hold on. All right, baste it on. Kind of got a little wrinkled when I was basting it, so just making it flat. Okay, both of them are basted on now. Okay, so they're ready for when I attach my sleeves. I'm gonna fold my sleeve. It's got my tab. I'm gonna fold it over. Now you're going to do this step too to the liner. Fold the sleeve over and attach the sleeves. Obviously with the liner you won't have tabs, so you won't have to do that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and sew that sleeve shut. Sew at the edge, and that will catch your tab right there. Okay, so now I've got my tab is caught on my sleeve right there on the edge of my sleeve. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn my sleeve right side out. Again, you're doing this also for your liner. I'm showing you on my outer, but you're also doing it for the liner. But obviously, the liner will not have the tab on your sleeve or the tab on your shoulder. I'm going to grab my sleeve. It's folded. I'm going to mark at the top, so I know where the top of my sleeve is. And I mark the top by doing a little tiny notch. Okay. And I'm going to grab my, ouch, I keep pinning myself on these pins that are right here. Okay, so I'm going to grab my jacket bodice, and it's inside out. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if I said it correctly. Inside. The inside is out. Look at this sleeve. I can't believe this is for my son. How in the world does it almost fit me? I don't even want to think about that. Oh my word. He's getting way too big, too fast. How do we make them stop growing? Like, I need the recipe. I said, you need to stop eating so much because you're growing. He goes, Mom, I can't stop eating. Then I will die. I'm like, okay, kid. Whoa. Anyway, so we're going to match up. See that raw edge right there? We're going to match that, that seam right there with seam to seam, the two seams, the inside seam to the inside seam of your sleeve. And you're meeting them right sides together. So like my sleeve is right side out and my bodice is inside out, so that when I'm meeting them, they're touching, the right sides are touching. Now, for the liner, you don't have to worry about this tab right here, but for the outer, you got to make sure that when you're sewing this, that tab gets caught right there as you're sewing it on. So I'm gonna place it, meet those raw edges. Obviously, this is a woven pattern, so you don't have to worry about stretching or anything like that. You're just meeting those raw edges together. And I'm gonna put a couple pins on here. And we're going to do this to the sleeves, both sleeves, and to the liner sleeves. So meeting those raw edges. Okay, so now my sleeve is encased in there. I'm going to go ahead and sew it all the way around, making sure that tab gets caught right there as I'm sewing. All right. Sleeves are on. Make sure your seams are good on there. Your shoulder tab is good. You want to make sure we're going to steam all those seams to make sure that they're nice and even. A good steam goes a long way, and it does with wovens as well as knits. Sometimes I know we do it for knits because we know that with knits it makes a big difference, but it makes a big difference with wovens as well. So you want to make sure that you're steaming all your seams and they're looking nice and sharp. Okay, so our jacket is coming along quite nicely. I am very excited about it. So you can see, so super cute. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put aside some of this stuff, and we're going to work on our color. Here's my liner already all put together as well. We're going to grab, we have cut out some interfacing, and we cut it out just a little bit smaller than our collar piece. And I'm going to grab it and attach it to my collar. However your instruction manual tells you to do that. Just to give it a little bit more strength. And then to the wrong side. Now I'm gonna put my color, outer and liner together, right sides together. Okay. And I am going to sew the two ends and up the rounded area and down the other end. So up, over, and down. We're gonna sew all the way around. Up, over, and down. I've been using my serger for these edges, but if you wanted to use your sewing machine, you can do that. Just make sure that you finish some of the edges that need to be finished. Now, if you want, if you did it with a sewing machine, you're gonna clip the edges around to give it a better, sharper edge. Hold on one second. My thread fell down because I was going too fast. Oh goodness. So now we're going to turn this around. And steam. I'll use a dull pen to help those edges. You know, I kind of wish that now that I would have done a accent color. So I am going to do my neck piece with this. So you'll be able to see this liner from the outside. And I don't know how that's going to look, because the reason why I went with this liner is because it was kind of fun and cool. And I'm like, oh, you won't be able to see it. But I know that you'll be able to see it with the color. But I feel like if I just do the same color, it's just going to be kind of boring. So I kind of wanted to, I'm like, okay, well, we'll leave it and see what it looks like. Oh, I think he'll like it. We'll see. Anyway, now I'm going to go ahead and top stitch all the way around my color to give it a nice edge. We're going to do 1/8 of an inch all the way around to top stitch. All right, now my color is top stitched. Very cool. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and grab our, here's our colors, top stitched. And my ironing board is getting closer to you by the second. We're gonna grab our jacket main. I'm going to fold my tabs down towards the sleeves and pin them down because I don't want them to get cut when I'm gonna sew my color on. So I'm tabbing them down, I'm basting them down. So I'm gonna grab my color. I'm gonna find my middle. Not that I don't think you really have to, but I just want to real quick. Just to make sure that I'm all the way even. I'm so used to finding quarter points that I'm just like, okay, let's do it. Maybe an unnecessary precaution, but one I will take anyway. We'll put right side of the color with the right side of the main fabric, and we're going to go all the way out, and you will end up being 1/4 of an inch shorter on the edge of your jacket. Nah, I did not, that was not my middle. I'm so silly. I was like, that's not right. Yes, this is why I want to find my middle. But remember, 1 sleeve is, one side is longer than the other. I'm like, this is not matching up. What am I doing wrong? Yes. Remember the fold over flap is longer than the short flap. So duh, of course it's not gonna be right in the middle. And now I gotta find my middle again because I didn't notch. See, this is why you notch. This is why I notch. That way when something like this happens, I can know where it was. Here is my middle. Oh, here's my chicken. And now we're gonna go to the sides, and you're going to be, when you see at the raw edge, you'll have 1/4 of an inch left over there at the edge of the jacket. So that looks good. Make sure that you align those raw edges nice and even. And I'm pinning. Now, I'm going to baste this on first with a long straight stitch. So I'm gonna baste this color onto my jacket main because then we're gonna sandwich it between the liner and the outer. All right, my color is basted on. See, you want to make sure that it's even on both sides. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab my liner. I'm gonna put it right on top, and now the liner and the outer should be able to match all the way around. So we're gonna match up those seams and pin at that seam, all those raw edges, so that color is sandwiched between the liner and the outer. Match up those seams. And when you go to sew it, make sure that you're catching all the layers. And then you also want to, if you're going to do a straight stitch, you also want to do a finished zigzag stitch at the top, at the raw edge, because you want to make sure it catches and it's not going to fray out. And then we're going to go ahead and sew all our edges together. So now we're going ahead and attaching our liner to our outer, and we're touching them right sides together. You're attaching them right sides together all the way around the whole jacket. Now when those sleeves have to stay inside right there, leave them inside, match the seam, all these seams. Now at the bottom, I'm gonna leave like a 4-inch gap where I can turn my jacket inside out. So I'm putting my pins, standing them up like that, so I know stop right here, start back up here. Okay, and I'm gonna keep going, putting those two raw edges together, lining up at the seams all the way around. Okay, tuck those sleeves in. Do not get the sleeves caught on the edge or anything, none of the sleeves or tabs. Make sure you move them out of the way. So when you're sewing, make sure you're feeling for these things. And like right here, I feel my tab. Make sure I'm feeling for it and moving it out of the way as I'm sewing all the way around. So we are attaching the outer and the liner together, right sides together. Make sure that color is nice and tucked in. I'll sew that color that color edge first and all the way. Actually, no. I'm gonna start right here. See how my 4 gap inch? I'm gonna start right here, go all the way around, go up, go all the way across the edge, go down, come all the way, and end right here at this pin. So we're gonna go all the way around, sewing that jacket together. Then we'll attach our sleeves, put our sleeves together, put our buttons on, and we'll be done. Again, really make sure that you're not catching anything other than the liner and the outer, the parts that you need to catch. Don't catch all the tabs and sleeves and pockets. All right, so I went all the way around. Like I said, if you're doing it with sewing machine, make sure your raw edges are maybe zigzag together, nicely finished, so that your jacket doesn't end up fraying later on. And that would be sad, being that you spent all this time making this beautiful jacket for your loved one or yourself, and say yourself, because I know people sew out there. Kids are sewing out there. So yeah. So now I'm going to pull my sleeves out because we're going to attach them together. I'm not turning it around yet. I'm just pulling those sleeves out, inside out. Okay. The inside's still out. So I'm just pulling them out like so, out of the inside of my jacket. So I'm seeing the wrong side of my sleeves. Okay. So now I'm going to grab my sleeves and I'm going to put it, I know that this is my one sleeve right here and this is my sleeve right here. Okay. I'm going to grab my outer, my liner. Yeah, make sure. Yeah. And I'm going to fold it 1.5, about 1.5 inches out. Okay. And I'm going to fit my liner, my outer right on top of it, so that your outer and liner are touching right sides together. And I'm gonna pin. It seems confusing, but it really is not. It really is. This is super easy. This is how you make your jacket reversible. So if you were going to work on one of those other hoodies that are lined and you're like, I want to make it reversible, this is how you make it reversible. You just make your liner sleeve a little bit shorter, and then you do this part after you sew it all together. And now we're going to go ahead and sew around that whole round. You know, don't catch the sleeve, just the raw edge that I wanted to catch. And we're going to do that for both sides. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let me show it again to you on this side so you can see. We're going to grab our liner and we're going to fold it out an inch and a half. Doesn't really matter how much you fold it. Okay, just enough to grab my outer and fit it so that the right side of my liner is touching the right side of my inside. Okay, match those seams right here and pin at that raw edge. So now the raw edges are touching all the way around, right sides together. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and sew all the way around that raw edge. All right. Now, if you pinned tabs out of the way, make sure you remove any pins. If you have any pins on this side, I don't think I do. If you have any pins on the inside, if you pinned your pockets down or anything like that, hey, make sure you remove them. Now, I'm going to start turning my jacket slowly and carefully right side out through that gap I left at the bottom. Okay, make sure you do it nicely because you don't want to rip that gap anymore. And we're going to turn it right side out. All the way. Grab your sleeve, pull it out. Show you how that's going to look. And my other sleeve. Okay. And then I'm going to show you how that looks. Okay. And my jacket is turned. If you want to go back with a pencil, like I do, or an orange stick, and make sure those edges are nice and out, those corner edges and those all the little sides and everything are sharp. How cute. I'm so excited. I am loving it. It honestly looks like a store-bought, like, expensive jacket. I love all the little touches, all the little, like, tabs and everything. I know it's time-consuming, and that's what, you know, you're like, oh, that takes time. I have a little bit of thread coming in through here that I didn't trim. Just gonna trim it. Okay, you know, you look at and you're like, ooh, that's a lot of little steps that I'm following. But look at the finish. And now look, this is what the sleeve looks like. Here's the inside. Because the sleeve was cut a little bit shorter than, the liner was cut a little bit shorter. then it looks really cool. It's kind of in the inside. Okay, so now we're gonna go around the whole thing and give it a really, really, really good press. Okay, make sure you press those edges, press everything really nicely. Make sure that you didn't leave any pins inside. Okay, if you pin the inside for any reason, make sure that you feel around and take any pins out that you may have left in there. I have done this before, left pins in there. Right here at the bottom where we left that gap, we're gonna tuck it in and steam the whole thing, because when we top stitch the whole thing around, we're going to catch that right there as well, and that's how we're gonna close that gap. So I'm steaming all my jacket all the way around. And after I'm done steaming all the way around, I'm going to top stitch all the way around the whole jacket. How cute is this jacket? Tell me it's not adorable. Now all we have left to do is top stitching, put in our buttons on, and put in our tab on. So let me go top stitch and then we'll put our neck tab on, and then we'll work on our buttons. We'll be basically done. All right. My jacket has been top stitched. Beautiful jacket. I am in love with it. I want it for myself. I'm gonna have to fight my son for it because it literally almost fits me. Why is he getting so big? I don't know. How do I make him stop? I don't know. So now the last thing we're gonna do is work on our, well, actually we got our buttons to sew on, and we got this last tab to sew on. So we're gonna do that last tab on the overlap side. This is my overlap side. I'm going to grab my tab, my neck tab, and I'm gonna put it at the raw edge. I'm gonna put it a 1/4 of an inch out from the raw edge. This is the overlap side. So right here at the neck, just a 1/4 of an inch. I'm gonna top stitch it right there. And then I'm going to turn it out towards the outside and top stitch it again right there. Now I'm gonna trim all those pieces of hair. Okay, now the last couple of steps. We're going to do our buttons. So we're gonna grab our big overlap piece. We're gonna grab our marker. Well, they both have markers for my buttonholes. So what you can do is I usually will cut the buttonhole where my markings are, like make a little cut right there, and then you're gonna mark them however you want to mark them. I'm probably gonna use my pen like I did. Remember how I showed you my buttons on the other side? So I'll do that for my buttons. I'll mark them, and I'll do they're gonna be 1 inch wide because of I'm using the same buttons. I don't know what I did with my pen. It was right here, and now I probably threw stuff on top of it. But I'm going to mark all my buttons, my markings, and then I'm gonna make my button holes. And you're gonna make them however you wanna make them. If you wanna do them, I don't know how your sewing machine makes them. I showed you how I do mine. And then after I do that, for all my other buttons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Okay, let's show you on a sleeve. Let's see, one of the ones that's already torn open. Okay, I thought I had it. Okay, this is how I tear it open. I grab my rotary cutter. Usually I use a smaller rotary cutter. This one's kind of big. And I put it right on top right there where it is. And I know I'm doing it right over my sewing mat, so I'm trying not to do it too hard, just enough that it'll rip through a little bit. Come on. I just don't, I might have to go over there to my mat. Okay. Sorry, I wanted you to see it, but I can't. Okay. So now it's got a hold. Now I'm going to finish it up with my little tiny trimming scissors so I don't cut my thread. Okay, I don't want to cut my thread. I just want to cut the middle. Okay, so now that my buttonhole is opened, I'm going to place it right where it should be. I forgot to top stitch my sleeves. You got to go back and do that. I'm going to place it right where it needs to be. Okay, and then I'm going to open it up and mark right there where it is. And you can put a pin right there or whatever, however you want to do it. And that is where I'm going to attach my button for my arm. Let me grab my button and attach my button. And obviously you're going to attach it however, you know, you're just probably going to sew it on. Or if you have a nice machine or tool that you use for attaching buttons, you know, and there it is. My button will be attached. And I'm almost wondering if, because I use that sporty liner, if I should go with like a, you know, regular button or not. Or if I should keep these nice silvery buttons. I might go ahead and do the silvery buttons, and if I feel like it's too much, change them. That's not the hardest part. We did the hardest part. Putting the buttons on. The buttonholes will be hard. I mean, not like hard, but you know. But we did everything else. So that part, the buttons, just sewing the buttons on, I'm not too worried about it. But we are finished with our jacket. How cute is this? Cute little jacket, all done. I can almost wear it. Go ahead and put your, I can't wear it. It's too small. Go ahead and put your buttons on, your buttons, your buttonholes and everything. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions about anything that I did. And please come share your creations on our Facebook and Instagram account. Comment, like, share. And I'll put a picture of the finished results on here. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Please subscribe if you haven't so you can be entered to our giveaway. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.